The U.S. government has adopted different positions about regulation of the economy more generally and media more specifically in different historical periods. From the late 1800s until the mid 1900s, the U.S. government adopted a pretty firm position in terms of trying to promote competition in the economy, competition among competing firms, and trying to prevent the emergence of monopolies in any one sector of the economy. The U.S. government believed in this era that it would be better for people in society if there was vigorous competition among many companies in different sectors of the economy, because the thinking was that this competition would lead to lower prices for consumers, and it would also lead to a much broader range of products and help spur on competition and innovation and development of new products and new industrial sectors. Now, towards this end, the U.S. government passed some major pieces of legislation from the 1890s with the Sherman Antitrust Act up until 1950, the Seeler-Kefauver Act. These pieces of legislation gave the U.S. government power and authority to try and take action to foster competition in the economy and to break up companies it perceived as monopolistic. Now, this perspective of the U.S. government to try and break up monopolies and ensure competition was a pretty activist role for government. All right, the thinking here was that the government should take decisive action to break up monopolies and adopt economic policies to foster greater competition. Now, this activist role for government started to change in the late 70s in the Carter administration, and changed even more radically in the Reagan years in the 1980s, where increasingly the U.S. government abandoned this belief of government taking an active role to spur competition. Instead, from the late 70s on up until the present day, the government shifted towards a position of promoting deregulation, right? Here, the argument was that government should leave businesses alone, and that businesses should be free to develop their own markets without interference from government, right? So that you increasingly had the government stepping back from any kind of antitrust action or actions to break up monopolies or oligopolies. The argument here was that under the Carter-Reagan administrations and later administrations, the argument was that it was inappropriate for government to intervene in businesses in a free market society. And also the argument was that the free market economy would sort things out itself without any kind of interference from government. The argument was that with deregulation, that would spur greater competition among businesses and lead to lower prices for consumers. Now, how did this actually play out? What actually happened as a result of deregulation? One major impact was that it led to greater ownership concentration. As government stepped back from regulating media and being concerned about monopolistic practices by companies, we had a series of really intense corporate mergers and acquisitions, buyouts, that led to a greater centralization and concentration in ownership in our economy more generally, and media more specifically. So that deregulation of media industries and of the economy more generally led to the growth of more entrenched oligopolies in most media sectors of the economy. Now, advocates of deregulation predicted that this deregulation would unleash the free market and lead to lower prices for consumers. Well, the evidence for that is mixed. In some economic sectors, like the airline business, deregulation did lead to lower prices for airfare, lower ticket prices. But in terms of media industries, there's really mixed evidence about how deregulation affected prices. All right, for instance, for cable television, even though we have pretty broad deregulation of cable TV, the prices for local monthly cable service are still pretty high, right? So some critics argue that this kind of deregulation of media industries has not always led to lower prices for consumers. That said, the government, the U.S. government, still has moved towards a more deregulatory perspective. The U.S. government has continued to embrace this philosophy of deregulation when it comes to media industries over the past 30 years. So, for instance, in 1995, the U.S. government let the media conglomerate News Corp operate the TV network Fox and also own a number of local TV stations, even though those holdings violated the existing ownership rules for television station ownership. Also, in 2007, the government relaxed the rule preventing cross-ownership of newspapers and broadcast stations. Prior to 2007, the U.S. government prohibited a company from owning both a daily newspaper and a television station in the same city or area, because the argument previously was that it would be very anti-competitive to have one company owning both a daily newspaper and a local TV station. There were also concerns about free speech and diversity. The worry was that if you had one company owning the sole daily newspaper and a big TV station in a city, that would mean that that one company would have too much control and influence over the range of ideas and news presented in that local community. Now, that concern was largely dismissed after 2007 when the U.S. government, after that point, allowed companies to purchase daily newspapers and broadcast stations in the same city or area under certain conditions. More generally, the move towards deregulation returned the U.S. government to its policies in the 1800s. At that point, the U.S. government had a firm free market position when it came to regulation of media. In the 1800s, the U.S. government largely took a hands-off role and let media of the day do whatever they want, buy whoever they want without any interference. And increasingly, the U.S. government has returned to those pretty pure, full-throttled, free market principles. Now, the major consequence of this government deregulation was to encourage media companies to buy up many media outlets in a range of media sectors. So this deregulation by government gave businesses the green light to go on a buying spree. And through the last 30 years, you've seen a series of high-profile corporate mergers and acquisitions in media businesses that have increased the overall concentration of media ownership. And just a few examples of this, in 1995, Disney, the major film studio, bought ABC, the television network, and related television subsidiaries owned by ABC. And that gave Disney extensive interests in the television production and the distribution business. In that same year, Time Warner, which already had an array of interests in various media, bought Turner Broadcasting. Turner, at that time, owned CNN, the major cable news program service. Time Warner furthered its media holdings still in 2001 when Time Warner merged with AOL, which was a really extensive deal, $106 billion. However, the AOL Time Warner merger was a cautionary tale about these kinds of corporate mergers and acquisitions because it went really bad. It was not a success for Time Warner. At that time in 2001, AOL had been really successful because of the growth of its dial-up internet operations. Of course, with the growth of broadband internet systems, dial-up was largely consigned to the dustbin, and AOL's financial fortunes rapidly deteriorated with the demise of its dial-up internet operations. And as a result of AOL's failure, Time Warner spun off AOL to a separate company in 2009 to return to its previous name, Time Warner. Another recent big media deal has been Comcast's purchase of a majority of NBC Universal in 2009. Comcast, of course, is the major cable operator, and with its purchase of NBC Universal, Comcast, as a cable company, now owns a major television network, NBC, but also has interests in television and film production with Universal.